Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle something we all face, tough choices. We're going to break down a really powerful way to make smarter decisions, turning all that messy confusion into clear, confident action. So let's dive right in. You know the feeling, right? You're staring down a huge decision and you just freeze. You're stuck. It's that classic analysis paralysis, and man, it hits you hardest when the stakes are high and there are a million things to think about. But what if I told you there's a way to cut through all that noise? There is. It's a really powerful framework that can take a tangled mess of options and turn it into a super clear path forward. And we're going to build one together, right now. So, first off, why do we get so overwhelmed? Well, the problem is that big decisions are rarely a simple choice between option A and option B. The real tricky part is buried in all the details. I mean, think about it. If you're picking a vacation spot or a new job, you're not just looking at one thing. You're juggling travel time, cost, maybe the weather, the quality of life. The list just goes on. And it's that balancing act that can feel totally impossible. So, how in the world do you manage all those spinning plates? You build a model, specifically a weighted decision model. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but trust me, it's actually a surprisingly simple and incredibly powerful tool. To make this really concrete, let's follow a real-world example from our source material. We've got a travel company, and they're trying to figure out which tour to offer their corporate clients. After some research, they've narrowed it down to 4 key factors that are going to make or break this decision. Okay, so to make this model actually work, we just have to follow 3 basic ground rules. First, you've got to focus only on the variables that really have an impact. Don't get bogged down in the small stuff. Second, you decide how important each of those variables is to you by giving it a weight. And third, and this is a really crucial step we'll get to in a bit, you have to make sure all your data is normalized, so you're always comparing apples to apples. All right, time to get our hands dirty and actually start weighing our options. This is where the magic really starts to happen and all that confusion just melts away. This is step 1, and it's all about defining what actually matters to you. For our travel company, customer surveys showed that travel time was by far the biggest deal, so it gets a massive weight of 50%. But the meeting facilities, not so critical, so that's only a 10. You see, this forces you to be really honest about your priorities and put a number on them. Okay, next up, we take our 4 potential tour locations and score each one against our factors, just on a simple 1 to 5 scale. So how's the weather in Riyadh? A perfect 5. And the meeting facilities in Dammam? Also a perfect 5. Now we have our raw scorecard. But if you look at it right now, there's no obvious winner, right? It's still kind of messy. And here it is. This is where it all comes together. We simply multiply each rating by the weight we decided on earlier. And now, look what happens. Riyadh's perfect 5 for travel time gets multiplied by that huge 50-point weight, which gives it 250 points from that one factor alone. All of a sudden, the priorities we set earlier have totally reshaped the data. And boom, with a total score of 440, Riyadh isn't just an option anymore. It's the clear frontrunner. Now, that whole process is perfect when all your data fits on a neat 1 to 5 scale. But, real life is way messier. What if you're comparing a quality rating with, say, a cost in dollars or a distance in miles? You can't just multiply those. First, you have to get them to speak the same language. And that's where this pro tip comes in. It's called normalization. Normalization is really just a fancy word for making all of your data consistent. That's it. It's about creating a level playing field for all your different variables so you can actually compare them fairly. Think about it like this. You'd never look at 100 Japanese yen and 100 US dollars and say they're worth the same amount, right? You need an exchange rate to figure out what they're really worth. Well, normalization is basically the exchange rate for your data. It makes sure you're always making a fair and meaningful comparison. So here's a super quick example. Let's say one tour operator costs 50 riyals and another one only costs 10. To normalize this, all you do is find the highest cost, which is 50, and then you divide every cost by that number. So the most expensive operator gets a normalized score of 1.0, and the cheaper one gets a score of 0.2. Just like that, you've turned real-world money into a universal scale that you can plug right back into your decision model. Easy, right? Okay, so the model has crunched the numbers and it's given us a winner. Awesome. But, and this is important, we're not done yet. A really smart decision maker knows that the data is a guide, not a gospel. Your own human judgment is still absolutely essential.
So when we plot out these final scores, you can see Riyadh won with 440 points. But hang on, look at how close Abha is right behind at 410. This is exactly why you have to look beyond just the winner. A score that close tells you that both of these are really strong options, and it's probably worth taking a second, closer look.
And this brings us to the final critical check. You have to remember that the whole model depends on those weights you assigned way back at the beginning. They're subjective. So ask yourself, what if you had decided travel time was worth 45 points instead of 50? Would Abba have suddenly become the winner? Playing with those numbers a bit helps make sure your final decision is a solid one. So we've walked through the whole thing, from picking what matters all the way to interpreting the final scores. Now let's take this powerful technique and make it your own.
Here it is, the whole process boiled down into 4 simple, actionable steps. 1. Figure out what truly matters to you. 2. Give each of those things a weight based on how important it is. 3. Rate your options and do the math. And 4. Analyze the results, but always look closely at the runners-up. This is your personal toolkit for making smarter, clearer, and way more confident choices.
So at the end of the day, we've built this incredibly powerful data-driven foundation for making choices. But it's important to remember it's a tool. It doesn't replace your intuition. And that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? When does the data inform your gut, and when should your gut overrule the data? That's something to chew on. Thanks for watching.